what their favorite. We're live. Today we're talking about writing romance, specifically YA romance, but we can branch out into other things if we feel like it. First, I'm going to talk a little bit to everyone about their favorite scenes of a romantic nature in their favorite YA books. So starting down the line, the first one's Emma.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I feel so put on the spot. Sorry. Think of one.
Favorite book boyfriends. Any book boyfriend.
Noah.
Levi.
Fangirl. Cricket from Fangirl. Of course.
Really Noah Shaw.
That one's taken now. Erica.
I like Noah in the Mara Dyer series. And Patrick Press, the interns, they were talking to us about, for a post, what our book boyfriend would be. And I said Noah, because I love him, and he's great, and he's got a mouth on him, and he's got those bookshelves, and the SeaWorld stunt, and just...
She needs a minute.
A moment. I need a few minutes. That series, at the very end of the series, also has one of my favorite romance scenes.
Okay.
Like, for me, the top three are Mara Dyer has a good romance scene. Ignite Me in the Shatter Me series has good romance at the end. Well, also good romance throughout the whole thing, just like through different characters. And then also These Broken Stars has a good romance scene that I wasn't expecting in it, which made it better.
I don't know about a specific scene, but I like the romance in... What's the Diana Peter Friend book I like?
Across the Star-Swept Sea.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I like the romance in that one.
Okay, Megan?
I love Lola and Cricket in Lola and the Boy Next Door. Specifically, the last scene in the entire book, where he gives her the thing, and it's amazing. And I was tearing up, and I was like, am I really tearing up over a cheesy romance scene? What is this? And I threw the book to the side, but then I picked it up and read it again. It was amazing.
It's so funny because, Beautiful Creatures is so fresh in my mind because I just watched the movie last night. But I actually really, there were parts of it that were like, oh, and parts where I was like, ugh. Like, this is not good at all. So I'm torn on that one. But, I still have to lean towards Warner, even though, in real life, he wouldn't be a good boyfriend because of the, damaged...
Yeah. But, I realize most of these fictional people would not be good people.
Except for Cricket.
They'd be dangerous people. You've got to go only contemporary to get, good...
Yeah, true.
Good regular people.
What does that say about us?
It says that I have a type and it is dangerous. And possibly psychotic. But it's fine.
Warner wasn't psychotic.
There were episodes where I'm like, I understand some of the things explained, but we still have some things that a simple conversation could have seemed.
That's true.
Yeah, he still had to go to some dark places, even if it was justified.
That's true. Okay, the part that I couldn't get past with Warner was where he sort of strung Adam up by his feet or whatever, and I was like, okay, there's no simple explanation for her to be like, okay, no problem. So yeah,
it's fine to torture him.
He definitely has issues.
I get it.
That's true.
Now I'm trying to think of book boyfriends from paranormal type series, any fantasy, anything not contemporary that are healthy relationships. And
Oh no, Selena makes it up.
Yeah. I was actually going to say one of my favorite romance scenes. One of my favorite romance scenes is Crown of Midnight when they finally get together.
Yes.
And then the end of the book ripped my heart out. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It was so good, and then it was so painful. I also just finished reading The Assassin's Blade.
So high, and then tore us down.
I was going to
finished
say
reading The Assassin Blades, which is the stories before all of the Throne of Glass, and we know what happens. We know what happens, but. Am I still rooting for them?
Still rip my heart out.
Devastated?
Yep. Pretty much. I was also going to say Daughter Smoke and Bone because he's not like
Yeah.
because he's not like a bad boy, blah blah. But they still
It's
have a
like
really
that whole-
messed up past.
He still kills a lot of people with all the tattoos on the fingers and the
And like
murder.
Yeah.
her family.
So never mind. I can't think of it. I keep looking at my books. I don't think I can think of any that aren't messed up.
Shadow and Bone, not the Darkling. I've only read the first book, for the record.
I read one and two.
Shadow and Bone, the not Darkling guy who I'm
Merritt, is
Yeah.
that his name?
Yep.
The one she grew up with, right?
Yeah, he's pretty. He seems okay.
Yeah.
He's
Also-
relatively safe.
The Infernal Devices, Jim was super nice, but then he wasn't my favorite of the two boys. So
Yeah,
Oh, he was my fave.
I loved him, but I like didn't want her to be with him.
Yeah, no, I love Jem with my heart, but Will was
Well,
Nah, I was tired.
Who's the other guy in the other series by Cassandra Clare? The
Jace.
Simon,
Simon.
the best friend.
No, it was Jace.
So he's
was
Jason
like the-
Simon.
Oh, Jace.
Jace and Will, but in the two separate series, I eternally get them mixed up because to me they're like the same character.
Yeah, I think that
They're
was
pretty much the
intentional.
same person.
Yeah, it's
They're very
intentional
similar.
because Jace is descended from Will. So
I know,
Yeah.
but I still should be able to tell them apart a little bit. Like
I
just
can tell
feel
them
like
apart.
really.
Because Will has my heart, and Jace, I'm like, I get you.
Yeah, I love Will more than Jace.
I'm not there, but I get you. But
just
Will,
the whole excuse.
Because I only had to read 2 books about him. I feel like if I had to read 6 books about Will, I would have gotten tired of him too.
I think so. Absolutely,
But I
I
also
get
feel-
tired of both of them because they're such
I also
typical
feel like
bad
Will
boys.
had more justification in some of his actions than Jace did. Like Jace had a tough past, I get it, but Will, the way he acted was intentional for like trying to go forward in the future and keeping people safe by keeping them by being
I
a
was
jerk,
also
basically.
like, I also feel
Well, I feel
like
like Jace was just a bad boy for the sake of being a bad boy because people like that.
Because
I
people
also
like that.
felt like that was like a cop out though. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but the whole like reason Will's being a jerk face, I was like, oh okay. So now we're just supposed to be like, oh yeah, it's fine that you were a total and complete jerk face. I don't know. I know that a lot of people were like, oh cool, I love that plot line, but I'm like, that's such a cop out. Like,
I don't know. For me, maybe it's because I love him so much, and I will defend him to the death. But for me, it was like I always found that it was a very concentrated effort for him to behave a certain way, and it was like when he would forget that you would see who he actually was, and he was not a bad person. And it was for Jace, his kind of like
I feel like it would
bottom line is like bad
Well-
guy, but good guy.
Yeah, the explanation for Will would have felt more like a cop out to me if like you couldn't see the whole time that it was like what was going on. Like, I mean, you didn't know
That it
exactly
was
what
all
was going on,
front.
but he would suddenly be nice sometimes, and so
I think it's
because
maybe
until he like
because
planned it from the beginning, I didn't feel like it was a cop out.
I think it's because I read the first, like, with Jason Clary, I read them first, and then I
did
read
too.
the
Yeah,
second
I did
one and
too.
was just like, oh, it's another Jace. And then that's
I
what
read the
excuse
first-
tacked on for him.
I read the first, the Mortal Instruments first, and then I read the Infernal Devices, and I still immediately was like, this guy is it! He is my favorite character already, from like introduction. I loved him. And I didn't feel that way with Jace. He was more like angsty. He's a rebel without a cause.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm really sick of, so that's maybe why I was unimpressed with the Will thing. Although I still like, I read that, like, I put it down with the, like, Jason Clary thing. And the whole, like, brother-sister plotline, I was like,
There were some questions there for a while, especially when they didn't know right away that they weren't, and it was like, it's fine. It's fine.
that was the weirdest thing, because I'm like, I'm so conflicted.
I only kept reading it because Megan had already read them, and she was like, "Don't worry about it; it'll all be okay."
That's what I told my sister because she read the first one. I'm like, just so you know, the bad thing that happens, it's all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Because for so
But then
long, you're like,
if someone tells you it's not what you think, you're like, okay, well, it's obviously going to turn out a certain way. So you kind of know.
Yeah.
but
I
I'd
still
rather
couldn't
know
put it down.
that than like read all these scenes where I'm like, you guys are siblings.
Yeah.
Because I want to be on board and ship them. But when I'm like, you guys are siblings, I'm like, Sorry, that's one
No,
line I will
so
not
much.
cross in a fiction
No.
world,
Yeah.
even. Like, let's take it down.
There's that book on
Temple
Goodreads.
matches.
It is a YA one, and it is the brother-sister one. And everyone's like
Oh.
gushing over how amazing it is on Goodreads.
That's
and
forbidden, right?
I think so.
I think I have it, but I've definitely never read it.
Oh, really?
It's
I
like-
just
I just can't handle incest.
could.
No.
I can't. No.
No.
I'm
There's a
reading.
Incest is not best.
I'm reading the Sin Eater's Daughter right now, and it's really good. The Sin Eater's Daughter.
Oh,
I
okay.
got an arc of it, and I'm devouring it. But that's actually used as like a creepy thing that's like wrong with the world. Is that like to keep the bloodline pure? They believe that all the kings and queens have to have a son and a daughter, and they will marry each other, and that they will have a son and a daughter, and they will marry each other.
But I mean, like that's how it used to be.
Well, cousins.
People wanted to keep their cousins.
Yeah. It
Sometimes
wasn't brother sister though.
How
'cause
close
that
the
would
family
produce
was.
some really weird people. So in the book, I'm curious about this. In the book, is there a bunch of like really like mutated people and stuff? Because eventually your bloodline would just be really.
Yeah, it depends on how long you've been doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the kids die before they're like 5. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying at this point.
Because eventually that would produce some real big problems.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's
What's it
super
called? I'm kind of curious to read it now.
It's called the Sin
The Sin
Eater's
Eater's
Daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm like 40% through it.
Ooh.
There's like a little bit of backstory that I could do without, but for the most part, it's incredible.
Completely off-topic question for Megan. Did you make it through Seeker?
I DNF'd it.
I decided not to start it. I've heard a lot of no's. So.
I think that for enthusiasts, like people who really love Scottish culture, like they will be able to push through. But for me, I didn't love the culture enough to want to push through the other things.
I've heard that a lot. Anyways.
A couple of questions from Nats and Ninja. How do you keep the cheese out of the romance you write? I was going to say something like, how do you cut the cheese, but I caught myself. That's a good question.
I think it depends on you as a person. Like, I don't do cheesy well in real life romance. So, like, I'm very aware of, like, this would make me squeamish in real life. I'm like, this is silly.
Oh, I'm gonna write such a cheesy scene for you to read. I have to put it in just so you can edit it and go like, no.
I think it's big for me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's big for me. Like the times when I find myself cringing and going like, "Oh, that's so cheesy," is mostly dialogue. Like if the guy or the girl says something like super like, "So the lion fell in love with the lamb" or whatever, and I was just like, "Ugh, puke, that's horrible."
Yeah.
Like it's
For
just
me-
dialogue for me more than anything.
Yeah, for me it's like too many cliches and like too many like overdone metaphors. That was like part of my problem in the that series that we read. The last one's Ignite, and Ignite
Shatter Me.
Yeah, Shatter Me. Thank you.
Shatter Me, yeah.
Like Erica's books and these books, and I'm so confused. Not Ignite.
It's a lot of metaphors.
But that whole series, the Shatter Me series, is like too many metaphors.
True. No, I agree with that. Even though I love that series, there's lines like pillow lips and stuff where I was like,
that
is
I
not
feel like dandelions in my lungs. I'm like, do you have asthma?
Yeah.
Get that
No,
checked
that
out.
was not good.
There are certain scenarios where I'll let it pass, but profound declarations of love tend to, like, throw me off. Like, insta love for sure as well, but, like, where, like, two teenagers would never actually say that to each other because you're always trying to play it cool and sus at the other person first. Everyone's not declaring undying soulmate status to each other. It's just
very true.
And I think when you find those things happening in your writing, you can take it out and replace it with the characters doing something for one another. I think that it's really, really cute and doesn't usually cross the border into cheesy when you have them doing things like I write fantasy action. So the main character's like puking over the side of a boat and he pulls her hair back and like stuff like that.
That is romantic. For me, I think
I love you like puke hair holding.
I mean, For me, I always think that if you add more tension, it gets less cheesy and more like, oh, they love each other.
Yeah.
You know, and
Subtlety.
a lot of it is dialogue, a lot of it is realistic, but also I'm super okay with getting some cheese in there every now and then because I love my cheese.
Yeah.
I think that there are times when it is fully, but also you can have your character acknowledge, like, this is cheesy, you are being cheesy.
And
Yeah.
I think
And
some
I'm either
characters will
uncomfortable
at some
by
point.
it or I like it.
Yeah.
It also makes sense, like, if you're going that cheesy route, to make sense with your character's personalities.
Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say, you have to
if
be
you're-
aware of how
Yeah.
your character would handle.
Like Juliet, it made sense that she was so over the top cheesy
Yeah.
and that she didn't
Yeah.
acknowledge it.
But if like Selena was that cheesy and Throne of Glass, I'd be like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
Is she okay?
Yeah.
Is she drunk?
yeah, what's wrong with her?
Does she need help?
Yeah, 'cause in a lot of these books we're reading, there's some pretty cynical characters because they're going through some pretty dark stuff. So, like, I think that part of it as well is, like, if you have those super cheesy moments when there are bigger priorities going on, I'm just like, stop. Save the world, but we'll come back to this.
Huge.
Yeah.
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 I had a
Unless it's
huge
like a pure
problem with
romance,
that.
then obviously you're running full speed,
Then
so
you're
keep going.
Yeah.
I had a huge problem with that in the Mara Dyer, like book 1 actually, because I really felt like that she just found out this horrible thing about her power, and then there's all this stuff going on, and then there was like 10 pages of romance in the middle where she wasn't really thinking about any of it, and I was like, priorities, woman.
When like the
That's
world's falling
realistic.
apart and all they can think about is like how they like
Yeah.
can't be with the boy they love, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Somebody said that about also the Match series, the second book. Somebody told me that that's what it was
Yeah.
like.
I
as
did
well.
not.
Yeah,
love
Matched I had some
Match.
issues with. There are times
like
that
the
I think
love
that can serve a purpose. Like, you can have characters trying to be so in denial about bad things happening that
Oh,
they're like,
for
let's focus on this instead. This is
Yeah.
so much better. It has to be intentional and come across that way. Otherwise, you're like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are you looking at?
oh, over here, focus over there.
Yeah.
But I think
Well, it was like
also
in
breaks
Shatter Me
a
as
little bit.
well. Like the part where actually a few of us complained about it, where she goes into the room to get vital information from Warren, like information to keep people from dying, basically. And then she's like, "Oh, you're like looking at me a certain way. Oh, does
Yeah.
that mean you like me?" And we're like, "You want to get information so people stop dying." Like, and all you can think about is like, "Oh, I'm blushing. Oh, he likes me."
But wouldn't you? There are times so that you could be distracted. Like, you know, you have bigger issues at hand. Like,
But
we
she
have to
should
focus
also
on people
think-
dying, but it's also like, oh, hi, I like you, so
Yeah.
I'm very aware of
Yeah.
every time that you look at me.
Deliberate, right? Like, it didn't feel to me like she was thinking to herself, well, why am I getting flustered? I have more important things. It was just the flustered, right? So I was like, I need to
At the time,
acknowledge.
she might not know, like, priorities of, especially young adult. I think you get away with it in young adult because you are teenagers, and
Yeah.
you get distracted by
Like, I
things
know
like that. and you have to have-
realistically, like, when I was that age, like, you're obsessive
Yeah.
about whatever your crushes are.
Mhm.
Oh, for sure. And I felt like in the scene, I felt like, boy, she's being really frickin' selfish. But I also feel like that's a reflection of what we were like at that age sometimes. But I also felt like later on in the book could have been like acknowledging that she was selfish at points or something. I don't know.
Like, that one
I
was
just wanted
artificial, too. There was a lot going on. And, like,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I just wanted an acknowledgement that it was like not okay to just like focus on her at that point, or that it had been deliberate.
I
That
love
was Kenji.
good
That
romance.
was who
I
Kenji
definitely,
was.
I definitely want like a good dose of romance in the books I read. But also, if there's like huge world crises going on, like I want there to be a good balance. Like when like
Yeah.
the romance is taking like a big priority.
Huge.
And like I know
Yeah.
teenagers get like really obsessed with like the person they have a crush on and stuff. But if the world was falling apart around me, I feel like that would be slightly less important to me. Than it would be when
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
just
it
like
depends
going
on
to
the
high
guy.
school and it's normal life. You know?
Depends on the guy.
Yes.
Because if you put Will
World
Harrington
crisis,
around
really
me,
hot
like
guy.
sitting next to me, and the world's crumbling, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, world, give me a second.
care.
Let's address this right here. All of the space issue and everything, because I'm distracted now."
I also think you can like combine it so that you have like crazy stuff going on and then like little hints of the romance. You don't have to be like pause everything, we're kissing.
That's
But
what I like about what Megan was saying about like little things that are involved, you know, like holding her hair while she's puking
Yeah,
up
yeah.
or riding together or something like that. But when it's just like let's just sit around and talk about feelings when there's bigger
Yeah.
things going on.
Enjoy the romance
exactly.
through the plot. The characters are super aware of each other, but the plot is still moving forward.
Exactly.
I don't like
Or
when
like they're
romantic
gonna
romance.
die and he kisses her, and then they're like, let's move on with the whole defusing the bomb or whatever. We can talk about the kiss later. You know, like something like that.
Look at any of the scenes from Chuck when they're about to blow up, and it's like, okay, goodbye. And then it's like, oh, we didn't die.
Yeah, there's no like, wait, let's talk about this kiss before we.
Let's analyze everything, like overanalyze everything for like 10 minutes. I understand this says 10 seconds on the bomb. We've got time. Pause.
I feel like there's so many movies where I see that, where they're like, oh, we're running out of time, and sometimes like the clock is even ticking down, and they're like, passionate kiss, and they're
Let's stop and have a
that?
super long conversation.
And then there's a long conversation. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you had 10 seconds last time I checked. Like,
there was something we were watching the other. I think we watched like maybe it was the newer Star Trek movie. I can't remember. We were watching something and like things were like blowing up and people were like having a conversation. It wasn't a romantic scene, but they were like, let's talk about this. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my god, that was like Beautiful Creatures. I watched it last night, and my husband and I both started laughing so hard because they're like leaning against the sign, and he like starts kissing her, and then there's lightning strikes the sign, and it's supposed to be funny, but then the sign is like on fire, and they're like passionately making out, and there's like 10 inches of
sign. Won't he be
between her and the fire. I'm like, hello, you're gonna catch fire in a minute. Like,
it's okay. We're kissing right now. The fire can wait.
so really.
Priorities, Aaron. Priorities.
Apparently,
Kissing is important.
Okay.
Fire, kissing.
So since we're talking about writing YA romance, does anyone have like favorite authors you know what you can count on to write amazing romance every time?
Erica.
Kelly. Erica, everybody at this live chat.
Oh, the
Where's
word.
Liv and Bray?
Yeah,
those are
Ray.
and Lenny
Stephanie
Taylor.
Perkins, she has great
Stephanie
romance.
Perkins for me for sure.
Yes.
What else?
Like her more than anyone else is always like those fluttery. Oh my god, I can't believe this is really happening.
And as much as I have problems with
Not
the
everything on lock.
clear within places, she does good romance.
She
the
has good romance.
scenes.
Yeah.
Particularly, I feel like Infernal Devices has some really good like kissing scenes.
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh. Which is funny because
Looking over my
it's like in a
shoulder.
time period where like that kind of behavior was less acceptable before marriage and
Yeah.
stuff. So I think it's like it has better kissing scenes than the other series does.
But I like stuff where it's like a little bit taboo, so there's not like
Oh, yeah.
strike out on the carpet, but it's like touch it and like she gets shivers and like the way he
I like
looks
a lot
at
of-
her. I love
like a lot of
tension.
I like angst. Give me some angst, and I'm on board.
And
That's
I think
what I was
that's
all
like
about.
a good thing
Will.
to point out is you don't have to have like tons of like making out or something to have really cute romance between couples. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's just like the way they like touch your hand or something.
Mm-hmm. Or even just like longing, like she wants to reach out and touch it.
Yeah, it's better if
She
they're not
can't.
making out all the time. Like attention
Yeah.
and anticipation is a lot.
Mm-hmm. Or even like
Sarah
when
J. Maas
he's
had me.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Just
Even like a character saying
Oh,
something like, I
so
want to
sad.
kiss you so badly right now, but they can't. Like, just stuff like that. I like
And
that.
see, that's what I think Michelle Hodkin did really well in the Mara Dyer series, because there was a lot of talking about things,
Mm-hmm.
and like there were some romance scenes, but not a lot until the last book, which is done really well. I'm not going to talk about it because I can't. But
Yeah, I need to read. Can't.
you should read it. You should read it. The middle is slow, but once things happen, and I'm all on board, and the ending is great. But she does a lot of good, like, talking about it, especially from Noah's point of view. When he writes anything he says, that's a good example of that.
I'm trying to remember. It was a long time ago I read it. He's kind of like a typical bad boy, isn't he? At first?
Yeah. Well, he kind of stays that way because his ability makes him extremely reckless, and he's also just very angry and directionless. So he's more about, like, I'm being annoying and terrible to be annoying and terrible, and I understand I'm doing it.
Which is, I think,
apologize.
like, I think that's why I couldn't get into it, because, like, I'm really sick of that type of character, to be completely honest. Because, like, when they were in high school and she was, like, sassing him off, and, like, I'm like, okay, he's gonna
He had
pretend
a
to
lot of
hate
redeeming
him,
moments
he's
for
gonna
me that I
hate her.
excused any of it.
I can't do it
I excused
anymore.
it immediately.
I can't do it anymore.
I was all
just
on
have
board
read,
for him.
I've read so many of those.
Because
They
it's
love
like
hate each
this-
other.
Well, they don't love. At the very, very beginning, they love hate each other. But then
Despise
that
each
quickly
other.
resolves, and it's more of like you're annoying to me, and then it resolves, and it's like really. How's a good way to explain it without spoiling things? Like he's there for her, I guess is a good way to say it in non-spoilery terms. Talking about romance without spoiling things is very difficult.
That's true.
It's like other series that we've talked about in book club chat, we're like throwing spoilers left, right, and center, but I still want to read that one, so no.
But I think with
Yeah,
books,
I'm not gonna
it's
spoil
more
it.
like obvious that it's spoilery. These are not
Mhm.
necessarily spoilery chats. Oh, I was gonna ask you guys if you're gonna go see The Duff. Speaking of romances,
Oh, I want to see it so bad.
I want to see it.
I want to see it, but I'm so torn because I know like the book kind of made me irritated in places because I felt like the message of it was like, hey, this guy called you a horrible, scarring name. You should sleep with him. Like that's what I took from it, you know. Like, plus I love the actress they cast for her, but I'm sorry, designated ugly fat friend. She is like none of those.
I think that's the point, though.
I guess so. But I felt like the way they described the girl in the book, she was like heavier. And she wasn't like conventionally attractive. And I feel like the actress is neither. Like I feel like the actress is skinny and attractive, conventionally attractive.
Like,
I love that actress.
they're painting her in the beginning of like she's not dressing very nicely, not putting effort in. Like it's more of that
Okay.
kind of transformation than a
And then he gives her a makeover, and she's magically
that kind of thing.
Makeover.
poof. I'm
Oh,
good
look, you're
looking.
fixed.
What is that '90s movie? She's all that.
Oh, she's all that, yeah.
Yeah. Take
That's
off
kind
the
of how I'm
glasses
seeing
and
it.
shake the hair
Yeah,
down.
because like she's all that actress. I don't remember who she is, but she's very, very pretty. But they amp it up at the end a little bit.
Of course.
Or it's even like a Sandy from Grease kind of thing. Like she's
I
always been
hated
pretty.
the end of that movie. I know people are gonna
Because
go.
of the flying car?
No,
That's what I didn't get.
I hated the flying car.
Someone explain that to me in context.
I hated that like end of the movie. She's like, I am going to change for this guy. I'm going to
But
change
he changed
myself.
for her too, and then it was all
Yeah.
like they don't need to.
Yeah, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Like they were both willing to take the other one as is, and they were both willing to change.
That's true. No, I'm definitely going to see
You
The Duff.
read really into Grease, Kelly. I'm impressed with your analyzing it because I was always just like,
the metaphors and themes.
cigarettes, black shirts, cars, and then a flying car for some
There
reason.
was singing.
I saw Cody Keplinger. She was talking about the Duff and that there are some things that are like very different from the book. So it could be different from what you're expecting.
I don't feel like he gave her a makeover in the book. I'm trying to remember. Because in the preview, he's like, let me make you over. And I was like, what? Like, I don't feel
I think in the book they had like a lot of sex or something.
They did. They had a lot of
They
sex.
wanted to keep a PG-13 rate.
Oh, interesting. Because in the book, he
you.
just started having sex, and then he was like there for her when her dad was being crappy. But I don't think he ever like made her over or made her popular.
I think in instances like this one where like the Duff wasn't a huge sales success, where it's just like it's an idea that they took and made into a movie. Like it's not an adaptation of the book.
I think they're hoping it's gonna be another Mean Girls or something.
Yeah.
That's
That
the
seems
vibe
what they're
I'm getting.
marketing it as.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those ones that
It
people
looks
aren't
fun.
going to realize was based on a book. They're not going to sell it as,
Yeah.
oh, if you love this book, come see this movie. It's here's an idea for a movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's true. I don't know. Like I definitely enjoyed the book, and I had problems with it, like a lot of books. And I'm gonna enjoy the movie. I'm sure I'll have problems with it. I don't like the idea of the Duff. Like I had the book in front of one of my like husband's friends, and he's like, what does Duff mean? And I explained it to him. He laughed his butt off, and then was like, I'm using that from now on. I'm like, oh my god, don't you dare call any girl that word.
But I assume the end of the movie, the whole point is going to be that you're not the Duff, and like that it's not good to call like it's going to be a lesson kind of
in
thing.
the preview it was like everyone is someone's dog, and I was like, okay, I guess so.
If you phrase it like that.
I'm pretty sure Beyonce is no one's stuff.
Everyone is Beyonce's stuff.
Everyone is subservient to
I
Beyonce.
would love to be Beyonce's stuff.
Yeah.
I will accept that role.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Do you have any comments, questions?
Check.
I don't think we have any new comments. I'm looking.
More people agreeing Sarah J. Maas is amazing at romance. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
and Dana says that she's even better with A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is
I've heard.
I want to
so
read that
good.
so bad.
me too. Anything Sarah J. Maas touches, I'm like, that I want to know.
That is gold.
I know she's going to kill me, but I don't even care. I know it
It's
will
just
be
gonna hurt me.
Oh, she's so
But I'll
good
accept
at
the
writing.
pain.
And tension
Yeah.
and sexual tension. I love, like, my favorite type of romance book is definitely the type where they're not like, I like where
Together
there's
the whole
like,
time.
yeah, well, like they're like attracted to each other at first, and then there's like tension. It's not till the end where they get together. Like that.
It's like I know it's totally overdone, but I love the Pride and Prejudice kind of romance where they like hate each other at first.
Yeah, I was gonna
like,
say the same. I always, if two characters
like-
together right off the bat, I'm like, I love you two together. You get together.
You hate each other. You must date.
Oh my gosh!
How
Have any,
is
of you,
Elena?
have any of you read Rebel Belle yet?
No.
No, I want
Heard good things.
It's totally like that. They like hate each other, and I'm like, get together.
Yes.
Love it.
It's funny
That's like
because I like
Anytime.
that, but only if it's done in a certain way. And if
It totally has to be done well.
Yeah, and I feel like it's done in high school too much. Like, I'm
Yeah.
tired of the high school setting and have that. Like, if he's the jock and she's the, like, shy, nerdy girl and they hate each other, I'm like, okay, that's overdone. But if it's in a different setting and it's, like, a different twist on it, then
Like,
I love it.
that's why I immediately like Cowell in Throne of Glass, because him and Selena, they like
clash
get
at
along.
first,
I was like,
yeah.
you guys are perfect. You're perfect.
Yeah. No, I really like Susan Dennard wrote a really good post like months ago, I don't remember when it was, about writing like the hate to love romance and how to do it right. And it was really good because she talked about like there has to be a reason that they hate each other. Like I hate when it's just like, oh, we just don't like each other, you know, but like there has to be some sort of good reason. Like Selena and Chow, they like have this huge clash, you know.
But I also think it's usually like I've read characters where, like, just not even to use my own work, but it is to use my own work as an example. Like, there was a character I wrote where the main character and then the guy character was just horrible to her. And it wasn't meant to be an eventual romance. The guy was just a dick, right? And, like, a murderous dick. So eventually he's going to end up trying to kill her, right? But it was, like, the amount of people that were like, I ship them. And I'm like, you're not supposed to ship them.
Yeah, they don't. I like when they just clash. Yeah, when they, like, are different enough that they clash.
Clashing is good, but there has to be, like, underlying sexual tension on top, as well as the clashing. As well as the I don't like you, but you also intrigue me, or like something like that, right? There has to be another layer to it rather than just like I want to claw your eyes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the intrigue that you got, because that's what happens in, you know, a lot of the romance actually in young adult, but still using my Sarah J. Maas example because you know, he was immediately he hated Selena because she was an assassin, but slowly over time he's like, oh, you're more than that, and she developed as a character, and he saw more of her than just an assassin.
It wasn't a reason he couldn't get over eventually. Like, it is hard to get over, and it still bothers him later on, but it's not like you murdered my entire family type of...
Yeah.
That's not why they hate each other, it's something else.
Kind of on what Aaron was saying, was it with Harry Potter? Wasn't she, like, a little shocked at how many people were shipping Draco with anybody? Like,
I will ship Draco and Ginny until I die.
For real. Well, what I thought was interesting is, like, what she kind of was surprised by and had a little bit of an issue by was that people thought that he was, like, he was secretly good and just pretending to be bad kind of thing.
But
which, like, I could see how that, and she was like, that's not who he is. Like, he's not secretly good. And, like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted him to reform and become good, you know? Like, I didn't think he was, like, hiding how good he was or something.
Like,
but there are characters.
Teenage Me was, like, 6th book. Draco doesn't like what he's doing.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. But I think maybe Draco was more like a coward than actually secretly good. You know what I mean? Like, he was scared and he wanted out more than like
people thought he was like secretly like a saintly person, you know? It's like the terrible thing.
All what it was. He just realized he was in way over his head, and he didn't want to necessarily even be like an actual active Death Eater anymore. But he wouldn't have renounced his Death Eater-ness either, because he thought he was a badass or whatever.
Well, that's why I hate when people are so hardcore in shipping Snape and Lily, because I'm like, he's not a good guy.
No,
I did not ship him. He stopped being a bad guy is because she died.
Yeah.
Oh, she'd asked
I think that
scene
in the book, or the scene in the movie, like, shows it so well. But he, like, walks up the stairs past James, and it's just like, oh, you.
James is dead.
And then goes into the room and is, like, devastated about Lily.
Yeah. He's not a good guy. He's just a bad guy with, like, layers to his personality.
Yeah. Like, it's always shades of gray, unless you're Voldemort. But...
Yeah.
He's mostly a good guy.
True.
Yeah. But I think the appeal to, like, Draco being shipped with anyone, because I've seen tons of Draco ships. Draco, Ginny, Draco Harry.
I see a lot.
I think it's just that, like, he is so young, and so there is so much you can do in, like, the fan world. Even if that's never who J.K. Rowling actually made him out to be.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. No, I definitely. But that's what makes an interesting bad guy, right? I'm not going to necessarily ship him with anyone, but I like him as a bad guy because he does have that, like, multiple aspects to his personality, where he has potential to surprise you, right? Like, he might do that shit, but then he might not. Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But
and like, Draco's such a fleshed out character that maybe like a lot of like what makes people care about romances, no matter how well it's written, is they have to care about the characters first.
Yeah. Exactly. And then I think people really like the whole like he's the bad boy, right? So they love
he's who
the bad
Jason's
boy being with anyone. Yeah.
He is?
Yeah, and Clary is
I did not know this.
Cassandra Clare wrote Draco Ginny fan fiction.
And
then he evolved and became its own book.
Wait a second. What? How did I not know this?
I kind of have the feeling that what's his face, who's Jason's best friend, the other guy, Alec. I think that he was kind of originally supposed to be Harry, because I know that her fan fiction was like Draco Ginny was like in game, but there were like Draco Harry moments and stuff. So I have a feeling that because he had dark hair and everything.
Yeah.
Huh.
So did Simon, so I always just assumed Simon was
it's one of them.
God.
It could be either one.
I mean, City of Heavenly Fire now, and everything's gonna seem different. This knowledge.
Yeah.
That's why Cassandra Clare is kind of like a controversial author for some people. Like, because a lot of people are like, oh, fan fiction. So she has, like, big online haters and stuff, which I don't like.
She had some drama with her.
There's a little
bit of drama with the fan fiction that she's already creating, because she had, like, homages to some other people's work.
Oh,
and some people thought it was plagiarism, and others saw it as an homage, and so it's complicated.
Yeah, very complicated, and lots of people are still really butthurt over it, apparently, judging from some comments online.
What you put online.
Yep.
Kidding.
That is a huge lesson. We actually have a comment. This one is, how do you pace a romance so that it's not like they meet and they're dating 2 seconds later?
That is a good question.
Tension. We've talked about tension a lot. It's like that tension between the two of them.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it depends on what your plot is of how you want to pace it. Like, if the romance is the central, then obviously you're pacing it out. If you need them to actually be partners in the plot sooner, like, it depends.
Yeah. It depends on what kind of story you're writing. Like, if you're writing one where they're going to be working together on something, then you can build that bond between them of teamwork and teamwork.
And that's where you definitely work in the whole, like, we have bigger priorities right now. Like, they obviously want to get together, but this isn't a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you need the romance to happen quickly in the book, you can also consider starting the book where they're already in a relationship. So you don't have to start from scratch, because sometimes you need an entire book to develop a relationship.
Yeah.
And you need that for the story you want to tell. You might just want to start later, depending on your plot.
But it can also be someone that they already know of, or they already have met, but they haven't
Long-time friend.
yet. Well, it's like that's why the
Someone
whole
they knew before.
that's why the falling in love with your brother's friend thing is so popular, because it's
you already
guy
know.
that's been in your
So
life
glad
already.
you said friend.
Yeah, no.
I was like,
No, Aaron. I mean, your brother's right there.
I think too, like sometimes it's okay. I think if your characters meet and they have an instant attraction and they start dating, but I think the problem comes when they jump into dating and are suddenly so in love with everything about each other. Because I think when you rush into starting to date someone, there's often like a, holy crap, who is this person and what am I doing? What did I get myself into?
Yeah.
You mean they do this? And if you don't have
Insta
those,
attraction, not insta love.
yeah.
I actually had, Insta Love really irritates me. I actually had that problem. I loved the movie Jupiter Ascending, which I just saw, but I had a huge issue with the romance, because I felt like it was just like, there was hardly any indication of it, and then it was like, bam, she was like, you should come with me and live with me, and they're like kissing and stuff, and I'm
There
like,
has
what?
to be a ramp up. If there's no ramp, it does like smack you in the face. Where
This
did
is one
that
thing
come
that
from?
I will never say this again, I think, but I thought Twilight did well, and I don't even know if it was in the book anymore, but I know it was in the movie, that they just kind of like pan off to them having a conversation. So you know they're getting to know each other better, but we don't need to see the details.
Yeah, you need some hint. It's different in books, because you can actually have scenes where they bump into each other and they're talking, or they need.
You can show a better passage of time also.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have to show every single second they're together, but if you allude to the fact that it's been like this long and this is what's been happening, and you do that well, you know that time is passing, they're getting to know each other. It's not like next day, hey, I know we just started dating.
And like we were talking about before, you don't have to like immediately like, oh, I need romance, so they have to be kissing. Like it can be like his hand brushed hers, or like he looked at her across the room.
Eye contact,
eye
contact across the street.
I'd
rather it be that than just like, oh, we're just
Awkward
kissing.
scenarios. Awkward things happening.
Because high school is the like uber domain of like casual brushes that everyone pretends is an accident, but you're both sitting there like, oh my god, this is really happening.
We're like driving in the car and it's like, my hand's right here.
And it's face up, just saying.
Movie theater, your hands nudging closer together. Like,
Oh my god, yes! I also love like really awkward first romances, because it's so awkward at first, but it's awesome at the same time. Like I love books I read where they like try to kiss but they like bump into each other.
Yeah, that's another thing that really bothers me when it's like their first boyfriend or something, and it's like, and we were just made for each other. Everything's perfect.
Flawless.
or like first kiss being anything other than like, what am I doing?
Really nerve-wracking. No, like I still remember because it bugged me. Like in Breaking Dawn, like after their wedding night the next morning, she's like, it was perfect. Like we were made for each other. And it's like, seriously? It's both of your first times.
Megan's bark of laughter.
That's what I did when I was reading the book. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no way. But that's what I really like, the series Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. In the last book, when the two characters finally hook up, like it talks about how like it's not perfect and it is awkward, but like they still love each other, and like the moment is perfect,
So, from a writing perspective, what is the balance between like, because a lot of readers just want to read that picturesque romance of like escaping reality, but as a writer I find it more fun to write the realistic, this is the dirty truth of it, but it's not always
but
what
I still think you can have it doesn't have to be like this was awkward and painful. You can still have it as being like something something different and something cute, or like maybe
like the awkward moments tend to be like
funny.
the sweetest moments, you know.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But I know, like, for me, I don't see them that way in my head. Like, when it's me in the awkward moment, I'm like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. You can have that romance.
Like, I think it's all about like the character's reaction to it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. And his like
Especially
her reaction,
in
like
YA.
if she's like freaking out about something or like turning really red and have him be like, oh, it's okay, and like being sweet about it, right?
Yeah.
Then the reader is like, oh my god, he's amazing, rather than being like, well, that was awkward.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really how they react to each other.
That's one of the things I think that draws me to YA when it comes to romance, I think, is that it's not like adult romance where you get all the details and all the body parts and everything's there and you know exactly where everything is.
Your inner goddess
you
is
get more
doing the
of,
jumping jacks.
Yeah. You get more of like a fade to black.
Yesterday,
Yeah.
the inner goddess dances. Like, I'm gonna come in there and shoot your inner goddess.
Yeah, but you get more of like a fade to black about what's actually like physically happening, and you get to focus more on just like, this is awkward, but they love each other, and because they love each other, they're working things out, and it's beautiful.
Especially like the ones that are fade to black without actually fading to black.
Yeah.
That are more like,
I know what you're talking about, even though that was so vague.
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to explain because it's like it's detailed, but not like detailed. We're like,
You know,
whoa.
like,
The Shatter Me series is a perfect example of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I think they did it really well in Ignite.
I kind of prefer that, because, like, Fangirl, I'm not sure how far they went still. Like,
Or,
Yeah, you have to be clear, but you don't have to be step by step clear.
and, like, it
I
doesn't
think
matter.
this
I
is-
still love Fangirl. Like, it's one of my favorite romances. But, like, I don't know. Maybe that's coming from me being an adult and not an actual teenager. But, like, I don't want the details, but I'd like to know what happened.
I found the
You
same
can give me
with,
the details.
the second or third Divergent.
it's the third one. It's like really vague. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened.
So vague.
It's like open to interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Which is
because
good.
she like did that on purpose, I think.
Yeah, she did it
Yeah,
on purpose.
but I also hate that. But
Yeah.
it's good because you can interpret it as you want, but also like, help me out here.
This
Let
is
me
your
know.
own story.
I don't like being
I
wrong.
feel like I've
There's
done
one
that
answer.
before I feel like I've done that before in my writing, where it's just like, oh, they lay down beside the fireplace, cut scene, and I was like, and I knew that they did it, but I was like, you guys don't have to do it.
That's a fireplace.
That a fire.
Yeah, I don't feel like I always have to know. Like,
Yeah.
And like
I don't
it's
know.
tricky in YA because like
Your
more
own
than
story.
any other genre, I think you're being read by adults and young adults.
Yeah.
In some cases,
Well,
almost equally.
Yeah, like on Wattpad, I know I have like 12-year-olds, and I'm like, I'm not writing a full sex scene.
I think you can cut like right at the moment before like you're specific about does it happen, does it not happen,
Yeah.
and still make it
Yeah.
clear whether or not it did.
Like I think
In the next scene.
day more than
Yeah.
anything.
yeah, even just showing them waking up together. Yeah.
Yeah.
or
then
even
it's
just
obvious.
like thinking, like if it was her first time, she's thinking about that. It's not like I'm just gonna black this out because that's inappropriate for my readers.
I
She
think
doesn't need to be
also,
thinking about the details, but thinking about
for
the
the
big
first
moment.
time though, there's also going to be like a little bit of discussion, not like flat like, hey, do you want to have sex now? But it can be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm nervous about this. Do we want to do this? Like, there's got to be some discussion. Otherwise, it's like, what are you doing? Slap, slap, right? So there's got to be some
Slap, slap.
discussion about that. So get off me. Well, there's some discussion about that every time you have a first time moment. Otherwise,
Yeah.
so the
It should
audience
be.
will know. It should be.
Yeah, it really
If
should
not,
be.
That's not good. Yeah. So the audience does know if it's the first time. If it's not the first time for the character, then you might not know. So.
Yeah. It's tricky.
I think it's definitely, it has to do also with the tone of the book. Like, for example, Ignite Me was more specific, and I loved it, but it also followed the rest of the tone of the book. Like, it didn't come out of nowhere. I'm like, whoa, this is happening. It felt like the progression was natural. Whereas if that was in a different book, like the Selection series, I would be thrown. I'd be very surprised because it has a different tone. Even though the Selection is more romance.
I don't know about that.
I mean, technically, less supernatural, less it's hard. It's lots of balance between a couple genres, but like I would be more thrown with certain tone. You know what works, and if it doesn't feel like it fits right, pardon the pun.
Like a Stephanie Perkins book story to the Ignite Me romance scene would throw me quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, which is so wholesome and adorable, and
I think that's it. If it's like really more G or PG, and then it's all of a sudden like close to R, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I think it's also like with the character, like how much, I don't know, like how the character is about their romance and everything. Like that was one thing that Veronica Roth talked about with Divergent, is that like part of Triss's personality is she was always very like almost closed off about, like, you know, because of the like environment she was raised in, she wasn't like, I'm gonna make out with my boyfriend, you know, like. So it was very much her character to not describe it for the readers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
While, like, in Ignite Me, it's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to describe this for the, you know, because that's totally how she is.
So we have a bunch of questions.
I was just going to say, I like Rose's question here. How do you avoid the top 10 love story cliches? That's something we could talk about, the top 10 cliches that we see over and over. I'm trying to...
I want to preface it by saying this, because I've seen a few comments about this. Everything you're going to write, whether it's romance or friendship dynamics or your plot, it has been done before. You are not going to do anything that's totally unique.
Yeah.
So,
and the reason the romance cliches exist is because people really like them. Like I was talking about the hate to love transition. I love it.
I
Love
that cliche.
love it.
Yeah. But I also think you could take you could take the most boring, dry cliche, and you could still flip it on its head and write it.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to try and do, is try and find like ways that it hasn't been done in a while, or ways that you see less often, and try.
Or like if it's like really cliche, be self-aware about it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you could take the bad boy and make it a bad girl, and the guy is like die book nerd. Like that's different. I'd read that.
There's a series that tried to do that. What was it? Like I think the perfect chemistry is the first book. That it's all like three brothers in like kind of gang life, and the first two were the brothers in the gang. And then she wanted to do the third one as the reverse of like the youngest brother got out of it, and then the girl is the one in the gang. But she tried to write it and couldn't do it. So I thought that was interesting.
Why couldn't she do it?
What do you mean she couldn't do it?
The book didn't work, or in her opinion, as like. So
I challenge that idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a challenge
like,
for all you writers out there. A bad girl and a good guy. I see it. I'll read it.
That's one of my favorite tropes. Are you kidding me? I love it.
Kind of like.
I also like. It's funny because I just watching the Beautiful Creature movie last night. I love how she is the magical, dangerous one.
Yeah.
He's the mortal human. Because that is a trope that I see over and over and over. As the bad boy who is a werewolf or a vampire or an angel or whatever, and the girl is the mortal, boring one that he's pretending.
I always think it would be better as a girl doing that.
It was so unearthly. It is cool seeing it the other way around.
By Cynthia Hand.
Unearthly?
Yeah.
I've read that one.
I really liked that series quite a lot.
Unearthly?
Yeah, by Cynthia Hand.
But yeah, even because like if it's a romance cliche that's cliche in our world, then it's probably, particularly if it's taking place in the real world, your characters are aware that it's a cliche. So even if your characters are self-aware, like I just reread Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson, and it has like a total insta-love, insta-attraction thing in it. And there's a point where the character's like, I've known her for 2 months. Why am I so obsessed with her? This is like, I'm so silly for being obsessed with her, but I can't explain it. You know? So like, even if like you or your characters are self-aware of the fact that, yeah, this is totally cliche, but it's what's happening.
And also, you know that like some of those cliches, like the insta-love, it's also like a product of circumstance in some of these books where everything is extreme and fast, and like fiction is real life on super high volume.
Yeah.
So I'm more forgiving about insta-love if it's done.
Just right.
Yeah. So what do y'all think are like the top 10 cliches?
I was gonna do that for my video yesterday. It's like the most overused romance tropes in YA, but I was too disorganized to actually come up with a list of anything of like, You've got like the sudden connection and the bad boy.
Guy, pure girl.
The best friend you didn't realize you were attracted to.
Yeah, love triangles.
Hate
like,
love.
Your guy, and then your best friend's like, but I love you. And you're like, oh no, what do I do? It happens all the time in real life, like, too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Just fighting.
Erica just always had all the boys in love with her.
It's
Yeah.
really, it's
So, and it was such a hard life.
all the boys, all the girls. I'm just like, guys, let's take it down. I'm very tired. I'm a tired person.
Maybe like flat female characters like I hate always bashing Twilight, but like the Bella Swan character. Where
I said something nice about Twilight, so we're good.
Yeah, she doesn't do that like, but all of the guys at school like her.
Yeah. I'm so plain and boring.
Yeah.
But I'm klutzy.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Or the love interest who just feels like he or she is there just to be a love interest. It's annoying. Or the male love interest that's like overly like he's kind of a bad boy, but he's also like overly poetic all the time and everything. How many teenage boys act like this?
I love that. The right or the very wrong one.
The right one.
It could go either way. It could go to Byron, where you're like, take a breath, tone it down. We're okay.
We have a bunch
Like the
more.
like the like male love interest who always wants to talk about his feelings all the time.
Brothers as corners
Some
of the love
people do.
triangle.
Some people do, but it also is annoying to me.
Wait,
I'm
like
you have to
actual
find out
brothers,
feelings.
like the brother of the girl, or like the,
No, like the girl and the two brothers. So like, which
Okay,
brother do I
exactly.
go for?
Brothers
I
you
see
like
that a
the
lot.
I'm just
I don't think
trying to
I've
make
read
sure
that
we're clear on the
before.
incest things.
Why do we keep coming back to that? Seriously.
There's another trope for you: incest. Let's take it back.
Because like with the brothers thing or like best
take it
friends
back.
thing, I
Yeah,
don't think
two
I've
best
ever like
friends.
it wouldn't make for a great story, but realistically, you would think that like if you and your best friend were in love with the same girl, whatever, you both say we'll both back off. Like you never see that of like this would be a horrible romance story, but as the right thing to do, I would think that would come up more often.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of
Yeah,
people
no
fight
kidding.
or not like fight over who's going to back off. So.
Yeah. I am definitely really sick of triangles that are a girl and two guys love the same girl. I would love to see in high school or something.
All girls.
All girls.
Oh, good.
An all girls
All
triangle.
boys. All boys. Give me
Yeah, I
one of
would love
those.
that.
I think
But I
that'd
would
be
also
great.
love to see two girls that like the same guy. Like, I never see that either.
You had that a little bit in Taken by Aaron Bowman, but the point of view character is male, so it's still kind of the same.
Right.
How do you write that? Like, because if your female main character is the one that her
You
is
also get
competing,
that in the
she's competing with someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's competing with someone else. Yeah.
The selection has like
Because she
triangle,
has to
like
win.
Not a triangle.
a sunbeam,
What is the word for that shape?
Because if she's the main character, it's pretty much
an octopus.
going to win. Whereas, if it's two guys, you don't really know how it's going to turn out. So it's harder to write it and be surprising and not have the
Well, it
outcome
could
be
be
obvious from
surprising
the
if
beginning.
you write the
It's-
love
what-
triangle
what
and
if
she
you-
doesn't win anyone.
Or what if it's a love triangle and the guy's at the top and then the two girls are like, we're fighting, and they're like, wait.
We love each
Love
other.
other.
I so would read that.
Oh my
Give me more
god.
of those. I
I'm
think it'd be
actually,
great.
I'm actually in like a couple of different writing groups on Facebook, and like just people that are posting excerpts and stuff. The amount of LGBT romances with girls that like, and I'm writing one of those too right now, and I'm like, wow, okay, there's gonna be a huge wave of them in the next like wave of queer years, and I'm like, hey,
There's a couple.
It's
There's
good,
a couple
though,
I
too.
wrote in Insight, and two new characters who are lesbian angels, and I love them to pieces.
Yeah, Erica, I feel like you've got a lot of lesbian action coming up in like.
Well, I
if you
also
want to write.
the Patrick Press anthology is they're two guys.
Yeah,
who love
what
each
about
other.
your Robin Hood thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Maid
Robin Hood. Robin as a girl will still fall in love with Maid Marian. I'm very excited about that too.
Yeah, I want to read that. Hurry up
I
on
get
that.
excited about everybody falling in love. I don't care what gender they are, just they love each other.
I've got an arc of the book Bleeding Earth by Caitlin Ward that I'm really excited about. I know
Everyone
Caitlin
keeps
has started
talking about
reading
that.
it,
Yeah.
but it's like the apocalypse and the girl has like a girlfriend. And so it's like you've got like that romance there, but it's not like I'm coming out and we're gonna be in love now. It's like, no, we just love each other and we're
that's
saving
true.
the world.
Like, it's a bit of a thing. I wish Kaylin was here, because Simon versus the Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens.
Like, so I don't even think she's read yet. But, like, it's a romance, and the characters are gay, but it's not a, like, issue book.
Romance.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that I really love is when it's diverse couples that aren't focused on the issues. Like, it's not
focused on.
like
I don't read enough.
Oh,
I just bought one of those.
so everybody knows. Here's the situation. They just love each other. And everyone's like, cool.
I just bought one of
We accept
those.
it.
It's about two girls that are lucid dreaming, and they keep meeting each other in their dreams, and they fall in love.
Oh.
And I'm really, really excited to read
that
it.
sounds fun.
Yeah, Lucid by Adriana Stoltz and Ron Bass. Yeah. I never heard of it before. It was like $6 a chapters, and it was the first YA LGBT that I've seen.
That sounds really good.
Or the yeah. I don't know. It's really cool. So,
Yeah.
report back how it is.
Yeah. Ashley had commented kind of similar, asking if she thought that people wanted that. And I think we've seen less of it in the decade up to now, but I think in the coming years you're going to see a ton more. Like,
Because,
all the agents want to find the LGBT to put out there. So.
And I think it's like, why not? Like, would it make it that different if it was two girls or two guys? Like, or if it was a transgender man and a woman? Like, is there a reason it has to be specifically a man and a woman?
I'm definitely.
Does it change anything? Really?
I'm definitely seeing a lot of books with lesbians in them as the main characters. I'm not seeing any transgender one. I'm not seeing as much male.
I think it's for the transgender. I think a lot of people are very hesitant because they're worried that they're not going to do it justice or do it well or right.
Definitely. That would be
So
my.
I think it's just
my
more research.
Concern. Yeah, that would be my concern going into it. Is like I'm always, of course, going to be concerned about getting it wrong or offending someone, but I don't think it's the type of thing you want to stay away from just because you have that fear.
And unfortunately, it is a sales issue as well in traditional publishing that, like, I don't know the exact number, but a lot of states have now, gay marriage is a go, that's great, but they're not there on transgender rights yet. So you're going into a smaller market, and it's just like, I think the industry will get there.
I think it's getting there a lot quicker now than it ever has before.
Yeah. I really think it's the type of thing you could do really well, and especially if it was like if it was a YA first person inner focus type of thing, and it wouldn't even need to be about specifically being trans. Like I think it could be really good.
You could have a transgender character at the head of a sci-fi. You're writing
that's
about
like the big thing that we're like
exist.
needing now. Yeah, because
if you're writing about
LGBTQ books are like issue books. It's like about
I don't want to read issue books. I want to read where it's a normal thing.
They have their importance at times, but it's also like, why can't they just be the hero? You know, you're writing about dragons anyway, so you can't say, oh, it's too hard to write, I don't understand it. You're writing about dragons, buddy. You don't understand dragons. You're making it up. Do some research.
There's going to be like a certain amount of issues in the book, like the one I'm doing is set in 19th century. So like lesbians in that age area were not thought of as even like a thing. Like being outlawed gay, then being gay, but when they talked to the queen about passing that law, she laughed and said there's no such thing as women in that. There's no such thing as lesbians. And so it was just like it was not taken seriously.
If you go back far enough in history, people were more cool in certain areas. Rome.
It's true. It was just in that. It was just in that like late 19th. It was just like you just didn't talk about it. It was legal. Oscar Wilde got thrown in jail for it.
Yeah.
But
Like,
women
if you
were not
write
considered
that book as a fantasy,
capable of it.
you could
Yeah.
do whatever you want, you know? So it's more of like, you're already in these genres where you're creating fictional worlds. It's not hard to put diversity
Yeah, it's
in a
like
book.
if you're writing in a fictional world,
Yeah,
you like
for sure.
consciously need to figure out like what is considered the norm in the world
Yeah,
you're writing.
and
Like,
people
would
should
that be
also-
taboo or not? You know?
And people should also react to it. Like in my book, there's a lady that laughs at her and says like, "Good luck with that. No one's going to take you seriously." Right? So I can't not have anyone react if they find out. But
Yeah, you can't just have people be like, "Oh, totally fine." You know,
Yeah, like,
people wouldn't
that's
have reacted
not
that
how
way.
they work.
Yeah.
But then again, it doesn't have to be a huge issue through the whole book either. So there should be a balance.
Yeah, this could be a whole other chat.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love the chat. I just did a blog post today on diversity. I'm all about diversity in books. I love it.
Here's a question. Can you recommend any YA historical romances that aren't Bodice Rivers? Bodice Rivers?
But,
I don't know.
The Infernal Devices, although there is a scene.
Oh yeah, I guess.
There's at least one scene where the bodice is ripped off, but that's much later in the book. And it's done well. It's not like the traditional bodice rippers of like, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know if I know any YAs that are really bodice rippers.
Yeah, young adult you won't find that.
Not
adult,
really.
You'll find that a lot. Almost.
Oh, yeah,
all
not really
of
YA.
the adult romance, historical romance.
But yeah.
Is Lady
Susan
of
Dinner's book is a pretty good historical.
Well, so is Live a Bray, right?
Live a Bray.
Yeah. How did I think of that right away?
Why didn't you say that right away?
I don't know.
You usually do.
I got really excited.
Is the Lady of
Milkweed
Milkweed Manor a YA?
Is what?
Is which one?
The Lady of Milkweed Manor.
Sort of. I think it totally would be fine for like a YA audience.
Yeah.
Night
Circus.
Circus.
That one might be up your alley.
Night Circus isn't really heavy on romance, but that
It's also not YA, is it? Night Circus?
No.
I have no idea. I see it categorized as both. I recommend
Yeah,
it.
I
don't
would.
think
If
there's
you're
anything
wanting
in it
some
that-
if you're wanting some like fairly clean like romance, historical romance, I would look up Julie Klassen. She wrote the like Lady of Milkweed Manor, The Apothecary's Daughter. They're good. They're like good romances.
They're like
And
good
yeah, the characters are
period
still-
romances.
Yeah, period romances.
That are just like the romance.
Yeah.
For the most part, and not like
Because
paranormal.
usually when I think of
stuff.
historical romances, I'm like historical paranormal stuff, but they're just historical romances. That's all they are.
So many
Questions, yeah. There was one. I know. Where is it? How do you successfully describe a realistic relationship without ever having been in one? Wow, I can't speak today.
Read.
Read. Because
Wow.
again, back to the whole point where like if you're writing about dragons or demons or things that
I
you
have
don't come
never
across,
been a dragon.
yeah, it's not so much
You haven't?
right a romance from a dragon. Well,
Gosh, Erin,
I
you're
can't
missing
speak
out.
about the not being a dragon part because I do have some experience there. Not a lot. Enough to inform my fiction.
I mean, I'm kind of like assuming that you probably know people who have been in relationships. You've probably seen relationships work out. I mean,
Watch TV. Watch
unless
movies.
you just like are a hermit
Yeah.
or something.
And then after you've done a round of revisions and you're ready to send it out to beta readers, send it to someone who you know has been in relationships before and be like, hey, does this check out? Just to be sure.
Also, I think it'd be pretty hard to write a super unrealistic relationship unless it's just like everything is always awesome.
Yeah, like
Perfect.
honestly, if you've been in a relationship, like you only have experience with what your relationships have been like. So like, it's not like you're really that far behind people who have been in relationships if you haven't been in one. Because everything's gonna be different. Because I mean, like, yeah. Some people have been in relationships, but they probably haven't been in relationships like with the world falling apart. So
Yeah, like Cassandra's already married, but she's not married to Jace Lightwood or Will when demons are attacking or animatronic angel
sure about that?
clockwork things.
And like,
You don't know my life.
I almost
don't. I
exclusively
apologize
write
for assuming.
people who don't get along at first. But I've never been in a relationship like that. Like I've never started to like someone that I hated. But you can still do it well.
Yeah, like I don't think I've pulled from my personal relationships that much in my writing.
Yeah.
My
I try to
relationships
avoid it.
are relatively.
Yeah, you're trying
you
to
actually
steer
want to avoid
clear.
it. You don't want like your ex-boyfriends reading it and being like, I think
Hey,
this is
we did
This
that.
is me. Well, they're gonna do that anyway. They're gonna do that anyway. No matter what you write, people are gonna be like, "This is about me."
Like,
I
yeah,
know it.
So if you pull like an exact date that you did with someone and you paint it in like a negative light or something, they're gonna be like, "We did that." And
That
you
is a
hated
very
it.
rude.
yeah, like even if you're drawing from past relationships in a healthy way, you're still going to end up like amping it up and changing details to make it work as a book. Like so, no matter what, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I pull more from other romances I've seen in books than movies.
Yeah.
Because fictional romance isn't really real life romance.
Research. Also, there are YouTube videos where like people vlog their life and are actually in relationships. So if you want to see like a real life relationship unfold in front of you, you can watch those. Like Zoella, she is so cute, and I love her so much, and she loves Alfie so much. Sorry, they're British and adorable, and you two have a tiny little pug and guinea pigs, and I can't. It's so British and adorable. Did I say that already? I feel like yes. But research, like writing dragons.
There was someone who asked a question that I really liked. She was asking about like how do you make a scene in like a grocery store or like a very ordinary place be romantic.
Sorry, I got distracted by Erica. What?
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
I did
so
too.
sorry. I can't get my headphones out.
There was someone asked a question that was basically she's writing a scene at a grocery store and was wondering basically like how you take a place that's very ordinary and make it an out of the ordinary romantic experience.
Tension.
Yeah, it's a hyper-awareness of the person they're with.
Are they meeting them in a grocery store? Because that can be close of where you are.
Meet
Like
me
people
in
meet
the
at their
extra mile.
laundry
10
mat.
o'clock.
Yes. So making like ordinary
They just-
situations.
Yeah, if they just bump, if it's just like I'm in the grocery store and then like, oh, you're down there. And then I'm very aware of where you are in the store. Like you keep bumping into each other in the store. And you're like, oh my god.
Cheese
That is
aisle.
totally
I'm
something
not
teenage
following
kids
you, I swear.
Yeah, I love the awkward moments, like
Where you
like,
both
you see
reach
someone
for the
cute
same
and
block
you-
of cheese.
yeah,
Not
or
my
you knock over-
cheese.
and you knock over a display of green beans or something.
Or like when you like meet each other in the bread aisle and you're like, oh hey, and you have like a conversation and you're like, bye, and then you run into each other again in like the dairy aisle and it's like, oh, this is awkward because
Am I right?
Hello.
You guys have an awkward conversation about what kind of deli meat you like.
So there are a lot of possibilities. So I'm gonna go like, oh, this is so cute.
You can get like when they're
Grocery
in
store
the
scenarios.
deli line and they get the wrong order and they're like, this is mine. They're like, oh, that's mine. It's like, oh my god.
Switch.
We switched our meats.
Okay.
We're literally like, last time my sister was in town, we were at the grocery store because I like to hang out at grocery stores. Which is actually true. I love my grocery store. I'll hang out there anytime. Ask me. She ran off, and I don't like being left in the grocery store alone. If I go with somebody, I'm like a child. I'm lost. So I started running after her, and then somebody rounded the corner, and I'm sprinting down the aisle. It's normal. Gonna slow down and walk like a human being again because I'm 22 years old and definitely not chasing my 19-year-old sister through the grocery store.
Because you don't want to be alone.
You don't want to be alone.
Hey,
That
the cereal
really
pile could be a
happened.
scary place.
You don't know what's behind
The real world is. You don't know. Yeah, I'm allergic to wheat. It's everywhere. You can't touch the bread.
Okay, so there are some serious grocery store swoon moment potential.
Yep, you got some. There are ways.
Such
Also,
a
if you need
brainstorm.
any kind of embarrassing example, email me. That's what Kelly does. Erica, is this being really embarrassing?
I need to humiliate my
Awkward
character.
moment.
Help!
Oh, let me list the ways that I have myself been embarrassed.
It was a long
This
email.
works great. It was a long list of examples.
I wish I could
Like
find
calling
it.
your teacher like, Dad. That's never fun. Also, it's a little bit fun. And then it's terrible.
Oh,
Anything
dear.
else on the question front?
We've been going for over an hour.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're
we
like an
have.
hour and a half, man.
There's a
And
chance
I'm in the
that
later
if,
time zones. I'm like, dang, it's almost 9 o'clock.
yeah, there's a chance that if we missed your question, we've been getting a lot of comments, so sometimes we miss things. But we did do another chat almost exactly a year ago that was about romance. So you can go into the Sunday Special archives and see if we answered your question there. I'll put the link
See
in
how
the
different our
description
hair
later. Yeah.
You can see all our different hair.
Oh my,
My hair was
we
so
all do
short
kind of have
then.
different hair. My hair is a different color. What
So
color is it? Probably my actual hair color. It
We have all
happens.
cut our hair since then.
We look
My
so
hair's
much
gotten way longer since then. Mine was like a really short pixie then.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, do we have anything final to wrap things up with? Any final comments?
romance. Reddit. Wink. Do it.
There we go.
Just write
To
it
be
down.
honest, I always want to be like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter if there's romance. A book is still good without romance. But I'm just saying, if there's romance, I'm gonna read it a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Romance
That's a
definitely
good way to
pulls
finish it.
things
It gives
along.
me something to be invested in.
Yeah.
Romance can also be like,
Because the end of the world sometimes just isn't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really isn't.
Romance for when the end of the world isn't enough. Put that on a
it's
t-shirt.
another t-shirt for the WordNerds. Yeah. I don't know, for me it can either like make me want to keep reading or make me go blah and close the book.
Oh yeah, totally.
So it definitely has potential to go either way.
Yeah, it
For
can be
me.
really bad romance, definitely.
Yes, exactly.
Like Matched, I never finished that series.
Oh, I finished that series.
People say that.
Love it.
I was more okay with the Match series than I was with the the Lauren Oliver one.
Oh,
Delirium.
Yeah, I only read the
Yeah,
first
I didn't like
one.
that ending.
I loved
didn't like that
Delirium and hated Matched. I really
See,
liked
this is why we'd be good book buddies. I'll take the books you don't like. You take the ones I don't like. We're good.
I have a lot of books with romance subplots that I don't like, and I only read the first book, like Beautiful Creatures and
Same.
Delirium and stuff.
I
They're
think
just
my
like-
main problem with, like, okay, for example, Delirium, and I won't say the ending of the series, but to me, it didn't feel resolved. And if there's no resolve to the relationships at the end of the series, I'm furious.
Yeah.
I was like, how dare you? I was
and for
reading
me, I
for
loved
this.
that because I knew that like if she did what most people expected her to do, then I wouldn't have felt like it could have ended the way I wanted it to.
Yeah. Well, see,
I
that's the
don't think it
thing.
has to completely wrap up. I just think it needs to resolve it in some way. Like I have to
Yeah,
have
I
some
think,
feeling
but you
of
also have
closure.
people with different opinions. Like, what I did not like, Megan loved. So that doesn't mean you
Yeah.
wrote it wrong
Yeah.
because I didn't like it, because Megan loved it. And
Yeah,
because
true.
Megan didn't like Match doesn't mean that it was written wrong, because I loved it.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah.
whatever.
Well, it's like,
I think write whatever you want to write and write what feels right, and then just make it the best that it can possibly be. And
But
so
also
right,
get, like,
right.
also get people's opinion. Like, send it out to
Yeah.
5 beta readers. If they all say they hate it, chances are you need to do something different. It's like the end of the Divergent books, where I feel like there were no beta readers.
yeah.
You know, like she couldn't have sent it out to 10 people and had them all say, "I love the ending. Let's do this."
No, I think at that point
not.
I hit a. And that's when you if you become a big time author, always run it by people, no matter
Yeah.
how big you get.
And find people
Feedback
who will
is
be
always
honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just your publishers.
Not your mom.
Well,
Yeah,
if you're like,
publisher's
not
we're
just
gonna
your
make lots of
mom.
money, so
yeah, your publisher's just gonna be like, sweet, ka-ching, let's move this through. Yeah, so I don't know. You can do an awesome ending. Just end it the way you want, and then just run it by people and see what they say.
Yeah.
Because you can do all kinds of endings. You just have to make sure that everything around it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what
romance,
beta readers are for.
Yes.
romance is hard to get wrong unless you go down like a very dark path where nothing is consensual or okay and it gets abusive.
Very violent.
But that
So don't-
happens so much.
Yeah.
There are so many books.
If it's abusive,
Ugh.
it better serve like a purpose of teaching a lesson of don't
Or
and
be
get out of there.
acknowledging
Or just
acknowledging
be understood that it's not romantic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
That the relationship
gotta
is sick and
happen.
twisted and it's not a cool thing that you want to have.
Yeah, and
Like-
making sure that people are like very clear that this is not something you should be rooting for.
Yeah.
This is like
But there,
looking
to
at
me,
you, 50
like,
Shades of Grey.
not even just 50 Shades of Grey, though. Like, the YA books that, like, I'm going to bring up, like, Hush Hush, for one thing. That ticked me off because that's what I thought of that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there was really
Yeah, there are
rapey
definitely
scenes
some-
in it. No.
Yeah.
So.
Don't do that. Consensual is sexy.
Yes.
So
Yes.
There's a difference
Right,
between
that.
like bad boy and really, really bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's like, you know, bad boy's cool to do if it's just his, like, you know, the way he talks or the way he dresses or like the way he banters back and forth with the main character. It shouldn't cross over into physical stuff he does to the character because that's not cool.
no.
Well,
No.
I'm thinking
That's really the only way it could go wrong.
Yeah.
If you stay clear of that, you're pretty much there's no huge errors you can make. Even if you write insta love, do it right, it's fine. If you like it, who cares? You do you.
Hey, I know people that like insta love, so you know,
Mm-hmm.
different strokes. Kelly's vanished. I was going to wrap us up soon, but
Her dog may be barking.
oh.
And I mean her actual like puppies, not like feet. I hate it when people say that. So for the record, I'm talking about animals.
What?
Like the animals.
I've never
stuff.
heard that expression
You've
before.
never? Is it just an
Like,
American
these dogs
thing?
are really barking.
Yeah, people
like
are
your
like,
feet
they're sore.
really hurt.
My dogs are really barking.
Okay, ask Kelly that because I've never heard that. Maybe
Hey Kelly, have you ever heard the phrase "my dogs are really barking" in reference to like feet?
No.
Oh my God! So
It's
it's
an American expression?
Ugh, I hate it.
That's weird. I've never heard of
the
that.
worst. It's really it's terrible.
It's
That's
so-
why I wanted to be
Yeah, I'd
clear.
be like so lost. So it's like I don't have dogs.
That's why I have to clarify that it was actually like animals.
Maybe in Canada we don't say that to each other. Because we're
Then
not
I'm moving to
British.
Canada. Yeah, I'm moving to Canada then because I hate that expression.
Okay, well, thanks everyone that came out to watch, and you guys left some awesome comments. There was lots and lots of comments, so thanks for that. And like we said before, if we didn't answer any of them, we're really sorry. We were kind of swamped, but we have another chat back in the archives about romance, probably last Valentine's Day. So if you want to check that out, we probably answer other questions there.
And I suspect we'll be back to the topic next Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So yeah.
This is not a one and done.
Oh no.
We're in a
There's
serious
lot
relationship
of
with romance.
Ooh.
Oh, you.
We're committed.
By next Valentine's Day, we'll have another two more Sarah J. Maas books to talk about the romance.
Oh my God.
I'm so
Oh my
excited.
gosh.
Don't say that.
I might not be alive next year then. We'll see if I make it. This could be farewell. Goodbye. Goodbye, WordNerds.
Well, I guess we'll tell. Next topic is
Book club.
Cruel Beauty.
Book Club. And we are reading Cruel Beauty, which you can see way
Wait, where's my book?
by Rosamund
Yonder.
Hodge. So check it out. You should buy it so you can follow along with us when we're
The
chatting
hardcover
about
is
it next
really
week.
pretty. So
The
yeah.
cover is really pretty.
If I
Buy
stare
it
at
for
it
the
for too
cover
long, I
alone.
get dizzy.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up now. Thanks for coming out, guys. Bye.
We love you. Bye.